tough situation that you're thrust into. So JJ won the press conference because he's very glib, he's very bright, he's very witty, he was self-deprecating, he was prepared, maybe over-prepared, and it was beautiful to watch. And now it starts. Now real life starts, right? Because what happened yesterday matters not to you going forward, right?
It doesn't, Skip.
Yeah, it's all a bunch of words.
It's all a bunch of words, and the only thing I can do is point to the history.
Yeah.
And the history suggests that it's not going to go according to plan. Now, there's a lot of moves you can make in the offseason and drafting and picking up some players and do those things. The real, like you said, the real thing is going to start in October, even in training camp.
Yeah.
Look, the history is mixed, though, right? Because we have Steve Nash, who is as smart a basketball player as I have seen, right?
Absolutely.
Who flamed out in his first job. Now, there were mitigating factors, but there's always mitigating factors in a coaching job. To your point, there's a bunch of things that go into the pot. On the other hand, you have Doc Rivers, who in his first year ever coaching in the NBA won Coach of the Year. So we have seen it. Larry Bird was really good.
Larry Bird was great.
Larry
Bird was great. He won 7 series in the NBA playoffs. He won 7 of them.
Right.
He was there 3 years, and then he just got burned out and didn't want to do it anymore.
Jason Kidd, though, on the other hand, who became a great coach.
Yes, this could be a stepping stone.
One of the better coaches in the league. His first job, he flamed out. And he will be the first one to tell you, I needed a little more experience. I'm much better now, that sort of thing. So I don't think that they were ever going to develop JJ Redick for 3 or 4 years, and I don't think Keyshawn would be happy if they said they did. But,
well, no, at least
to me, this is a little bit about, look, he in that opening speech that you just showed, he talked a lot about development. He talked a lot about, oh, JJ would be good at, all the things you spin. If this is your guy, you want to spin the different. You want to spin the development, all the things like that. So, look, if that's their goal, and they want to develop JJ and they want to develop the players at the same time, we've seen plenty of teams around the league that have done that with a younger coach and a sort of, more scattered roster, and they win a few games, and the next year they win more and all of that. However, at the same time, they sat up there and talked about championships. The goal is still to win a championship. JJ said that the roster is not far away from being a championship roster, which when you look around the West, I would not agree with that assessment. I think that it completely could get there because they've got the most important ingredients. They've got 2 top 10 players. But there has to be some pretty significant changes to be close to a championship in the Western Conference. And that's not a JJ thing, frankly.
I feel like I'm a sponge when it comes to certain things, and I soak it all up. I was told early on, they want to coach not just for today, but for the future. That was what I was told.
Yes.
That's what I'm just saying. So now you get to the press conference and you're saying something totally different. That's why I'm saying, just tell me the truth. Is it really about the future if it's about right now? Because if it was about right now, you got rid of 2 coaches in the last 4 years that took you pretty far in situations. So if they were still in place, you'd have an opportunity and a chance, I feel like. A coach with no experience that's young, and he could turn into look, the first time guys in general that people put on lists to go get don't always turn out to be the best bet.
Right.
Okay?
And by the way, he could be, I have no doubt.
He might be the best coach ever 4 years from now.
I have no doubt. Seriously, I can sit up here and tell you that I have 0 doubt that JJ Redick will be a very good NBA coach. He will get there. Is he going to get there in the next couple years? Is he going to get there with the Lakers?
That's the problem. It's the Lakers. And LeBron has a clock that's a ticking. And Anthony Davis, for all his worth, he has a clock that's a ticking too. We act like Anthony Davis is 22 years old the way we talk. Just because LeBron is playing at 40, everybody assumes Anthony Davis is going to play these 40. It doesn't work like that. So it's like, okay, are we trying to get this thing done before LeBron goes off and does something else with his life and his family and his kids and everything else? If that's the case, why didn't we stay with him and keep it going? Why start the clock all over again?
Well, apparently your 2 top 10 players finally said enough of Darvin Ham. Pretty simple. They for whatever reason, it just wasn't going to continue.
I understand.
All right?
I understand.
Okay, so I've said this before, and I'm going to say it one last time. I still don't believe JJ would have gotten this job if not for that podcast with LeBron. Sure. And I could be wrong about that, but
and that's okay,
it
though.
meant a lot. No, it did.
Yeah.
Okay? And yet, ironically, he said yesterday that that's the end of the podcast. And I'm thinking, seriously, I thought this because it's sort of the appeal of JJ because he does speak for a living. And he and LeBron had such a good click on the podcast. I kind of hope they would keep it up and do a weekly Inside the Lakers. And I know you'd have to tiptoe through some things, but I thought they would continue their podcast relationship.
Yeah, this is probably not the city to do that.
No.
Okay.
If he was buried in a small market, he probably could do
Maybe.
it. Doing it in LA and winning 30 games, probably not going to be. It's probably not a good idea.
Okay, if that's what you're predicting.
No, I'm not predicting. I'm just saying if you don't
it could get real sticky.
It could get real
didn't-
sticky real quick.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So in the end, you came away, it sounds like, impressed and optimistic for him.
Yes, look, I am impressed and optimistic on day one. Opening day, every baseball team can win the pennant, right? I mean, that's sort of a little bit what we experienced yesterday over at the Lakers practice facility. But yeah, look, Rob Pelinka was saying the right things. It's good if you are a Laker fan to feel like, okay, well, at least we all agree on the direction you need to go. I thought JJ Redick said the right things. And by the way, when I mentioned analytics and him talking about I'm going to use math and I'm going to embrace numbers, it's not just three-point shots. And I know it's a little bit of a dirty word, analytics with athletes, but he talked about finding the edges, right? And that's something that is sort of a concept in sports that's gotten a lot of hold. There was a cycling team over in Europe that changed little things by half a degree here, that, are our tires the best tires? Or is this, is the way we load the bikes into the van the best way to load the bikes into the van? And by making those little edge 5%, 10% changes, all of a sudden their bike riders were winning the Tour de France.
Yeah.
And that is an idea in modern coaching that is popular, and you need to be an analytics-based coach to get those little edges. I think Anthony Davis, to your point, is going to be a benefit of those little edges. I do not think Anthony Davis has reached his full potential. I think JJ is a great coach to try to unlock some of that. We'll have to see if he can. But that, to me, is actually probably the best fit of all of the fits.
Well, I guess because I'm a Laker fan, it's certain things, as a former athlete, certain things are scary to me, whether you've been in a locker room as a player or not. When you have to make adjustments on the fly, what I'm envisioning, how is he going to outsmart Mikey Malone up in Denver? How is he going to outsmart our guy in Spo down in Miami? When does he know to call a timeout right now? Those are the sort of things that scare me. Like, when do you make the adjustments? What's your rotation going to look like? Because Darvin Ham got criticized at times about the rotation a year ago. So all of those sort of things, it's like, okay, when is that going to happen? Where's your assistant that's going to help you? Well, who's your assistant? I don't have that information.
No.
So everything is still kind of like, I don't know yet. I just don't know. And because in this day and age, as much as I love LeBron and we love LeBron, Skip, you like him as a person, not so much as a Jordan basketball comp, but
True.
Players in the NBA, and you know this, Rachel, this isn't LeBron 10 years ago when guys were walking in the league going, wow, this is LeBron James.
Yeah.
They don't give a damn now. So when
I think they give it.
no, hold on, Skip. I'm talking about what he says on the team because they feel like when you don't have a guy like Brooks on the team that can care less. What's going to happen when you have a Robert Horry on your type team that don't care about what you're talking about as a coach, like Danny Ainge figured out? How would JJ respond to that? Many people will say, oh, he can handle it. I had Paul Pierce over here talking about yesterday when he was with him for 2 years at the Clippers. He didn't seem as a leader, as a coach, in how to respond to certain players. That part, to me, makes me go, oh, okay. Because I know as a head coach, you can have challenging situations that come up.
Okay.
How you going to handle that?
All right. I'm with you, and I have voiced this several times, and I'll do it again one more time before we give him his lead into this and just let it go and see what happens. But he's not coming from the mold that a lot of these first-time head coaches came from because he was not the point guard. He was not a locker room leader. I've talked to several people. I told you yesterday, and I told Paul, talking to people even back to the Philadelphia days, quiet in the locker room, stayed to himself in the locker room, not what you'd call a natural-born locker room speaker or leader. So when I look at Larry Bird or Doc Rivers, I say, oh, well, but they led their basketball teams and they just stepped right in as a head coach without head coaching experience, but they had leadership experience in both cases. And Larry was kind of the point forward of that team, and Doc was the point guard of the teams he was on. Okay, so he doesn't have the natural background that would lend itself to say,